We're here at the Child Tavern site on Barlow Cemetery Road in Woodstock, Connecticut. And we're ready to continue on the second half of our journey to Crytsal Pond. Traveling just a short distance beyond the Child Tavern on Barlow Cemetery Road, we come into view of the Bugbee home, which was one of the earliest homes constructed here in this part of Woodstock. While the old home faces onto Barlow Cemetery Road on one side, the Old Connecticut Path, as described by Lloyd Williams, heads off across their property and west towards Crytsal Pond. We've been able to pick up the trail well beyond the old Bugbee home on Barlow Cemetery Road, heading uphill towards the top of Dean Hill. We'll take a few minutes to walk up the hill. Made it to the top of Dean Hill. It was an easy walk coming up. The grade was not difficult and it only took a few minutes. And here we have at the top of Dean Hill, if we were to look at this from above, we'd see a circular field on top of the hill surrounded by woods. Now, as we look out across this cornfield at the top of Dean Hill, just along the Old Connecticut Path, there are a couple questions that come to mind. And first is, how many centuries has corn been grown here on this field at the top of Dean Hill? It's recorded in local history here that the settlers who came here after the King Philip's War in the early years of settlement found caches of Indian corn buried for storage for the use by the natives during the winter. And the other is, as this is right on top of a hill surrounded by forest, why would it be used over the course of, dare I say, centuries of time as a field for corn? I think this may go back to the early times in the mid-1500s through the early 1700s. There was a period of a mini ice age in which the climate was much colder and the growing seasons were shorter. So the optimal place to plant when you have a shorter growing season would be here at a place like this at a top of the hill, to get the maximum amount of sunshine on your crops. We'll continue on our way along the Old Connecticut Path as it was described by Lloyd Williams by returning just a short distance down from Dean Hill. Turn downhill from the summit of Dean Hill to the point where the path heads west once again. Now, if you did not know it was here, you would be likely to walk right by it as we enter this fern-covered roadway leading west towards Crytsal Pond. The pathway enters the woods into a quiet shaded grove, and we can see by the tree fall and debris across the old cart path that it's been long out of use. This portion of the path is among my favorites because of the quiet beauty here in the woods and walking through an endless fern glade on easy grades as we head west. We marvel at the intelligence that went into laying this as the route. The route of the path enters an area where we pass a vernal pool, which, if you come at the right time of the year, is surrounded by mountain laurel in blossom. Traces of the old cart path are visible, with ruts to show where the wagon wheels may have passed over. As we come through the barway and the stone wall here, the path curves and we begin to see the meadowland that we'll come out into from the woods here on our way west. Our line of travel since leaving the woods has brought us from the edge of the woods uphill gently across the field to the junction of Hopkins Road and Route 198 in Woodstock. Although traces of the path have been erased where they went across the field over the course of centuries of farming, the remains of the trail west from here can be found here in the woods just below Route 198. We can pick up the remains of the ancient roadway, and as we turn, we come downhill to the place where we see the bridge abutments for the bridge that spanned the Still River. We'll take a moment here on the bridge abutment to enjoy the quiet of the Still River as it flows by here. Lloyd Williams described the route from here, and so I'll share with you some pictures to help you visualize the route as I describe it. From here, the route climbs a gentle grade a short distance to an existing driveway that follows the route of the old road to a private home at the end. Just beyond, there's a wall and line of barberry that, if you break through, leads you to an open field where you can see traces of the old roadway and the ruts climbing the hill towards what Lloyd Williams described as the Dean Farm. Because of the difficulty walking certain portions of the route, I'll pick up the route just beyond the Dean Farm. Before heading on towards Crytsal Pond, I'll take you on a short detour here along the roadway that Route 198 has replaced, and it follows along Still River. And we'll take a look at another site along the way here. Ellen Larned, on her map of ancient Windham County, drew a line for the Old Connecticut Path that ran parallel to the route established by Lloyd Williams. But it appears that their lines of travel met somewhere just beyond the Still River. And it may well be that this bridge and the road leading uphill to join the route established by Lloyd Williams is the point where their two paths crossed. We've come around to a point where we're just beyond the place that Lloyd Williams described as the Dean Farm, on the old road leading up towards Crytsal Pond. And as we come around, you can see the roadway, but it's still lined by stone walls and old trees here in the forest. We've just crossed a wet space along the old roadway, and the road has been straightened to go directly up the hill, but the pathway may have gone here through this barway and on a diagonal track uphill to Crytsal Pond. Williams recorded from his conversations with local residents that much of the traces of the path through here were destroyed by the hurricane of 1938. But we can still find what appears to be at least a reasonable line of travel. We'll pass through the barway here to head on our final few minutes on the path leading down to Crytsal Pond. Today's journey of rediscovery along the Old Connecticut Path ends here at Crytsal Pond on the border of Woodstock and Eastford, Connecticut. We've traveled a route from Hopkins Hill to Crytsal Pond that was mapped and described by Lloyd Williams, a Woodstock resident, and written by him in 1948. He was able to draw into the oral history and memory of the residents who lived along the path. Williams used descriptions provided by longtime residents who lived along the route of the path to draw and define the route from Hopkins Hill to here. Along the way, we found roads that have been lost to history, but could provide alternative routes for easier travel. And we've seen bridges that have vanished over time, and all that we're left with are the remnants of the abutments to show us where the roads went. We've also seen the point at which the parallel route described by Ellen Larned on her map of ancient Windham County came together with the route Williams described. The wonderful places in the woods and along the roadways here in Woodstock provide us with a way of re-entering a time of travel when those going west were on foot and needed a sure way to travel easily across this countryside. The landscape that we traveled over is worthy of preservation for our enjoyment and for future generations to come and experience here in Woodstock. We're fortunate that much of the land that we traveled over has been preserved by the landowners and here by the towns of Eastford and Woodstock. For more information about our travels today across Woodstock and the Old Connecticut Path, please visit the Old Connecticut Path website.